Hello everybody, and my the people that I called my LinkedIn family. I was so glad that you are here and connecting, either from Zoom. I want to make sure that my Zoom is on here. You're connecting on Zoom or watching on YouTube or Facebook. Actually, on my page. My name is Emmanuel. I host this show that I started not long ago. And today I have a special guest. And the reason why I decided to do this is to create space where I, I'm going to invite experts in cloud and DevOps or IT in general. And then these experts will be able to share their insights, their experience with each other, with all of us, so that we can continue to learn from one another. And that's kind of like the space that I'm creating through this show here. And you have any questions on YouTube, just post your questions in the comment box and do the same also on Zoom. I can still see comments. I'll see also comments on Facebook on Transform to Succeed Facebook page or YouTube profile. I've been doing cloud and DevOps for quite some time now. I've done also infrastructure as well as multi-systems engineering for quite some time. My passion is about mentoring people, and you find more about me on my LinkedIn profile. But today I'm not here just for me. We are here for somebody else and for you. And this is someone that I met on LinkedIn. I've been following him, uh, looking at the ways he's been changing lives. And that's very impressive, I tell you, friend. And his name is Ernest. That's his first name. And he's a dynamic, accomplished multi-cloud infrastructure and DevSecOps engineer. And he can explain some of these terminologies in case you're new in this field and you don't know what DevSecOps stands for. He can explain that to you. And he has years of experience, of hands-on experience, doing what? Architecting, actually designing, architecting, building, and securing cloud-based solutions across diverse industries. He has a strong passion for leveraging technology to solve complex challenges. He specializes in designing scalable, secure, and cost efficient cloud infrastructures that empower businesses to thrive in the digital age. And then there's more that I can say about him, but you can ask him questions, right? I want this to be a conversation, you know. Uh, you have some doubts, you have some you're lacking clarity about how to become or even how to transition into IT. The guy who's talking right now, I was a full-time pastor for years. And then I had to transition into cloud and DevOps. And then he also has a similar story. And he can help you too, right? Ernest is also the founder of Africa Pro Cloud Institute, where he dedicates himself to equipping aspiring engineers with the technical skills and confidence they need to excel in cloud computing and DevOps. His bootcamp programs include comprehensive training, mentorship, and a thriving tech ecosystem that prepares students to compete globally in this fast-paced sector. And on top of that, he's highly certified So, like in AWS Cloud Practitioner, uh, Solutions Architect, CompTIA Security, Kubernetes. Uh, what else here? I think that's it. Yeah. And, when somebody is certified, that shows that they are experts in some areas. All right. Beyond this technical expertise, Ernest is a mentor and advocate for cloud adoption. He's passionate about empowering the next generation of tech professionals. If you're feeling that passion for IT, cloud, DevOps, he's the guy to go to. All right. He has an incredible gift for making even the most complex topics accessible and actionable for a wide audience. So wherever you may be in life, there's always a possibility of changing your story. There's a possibility of changing even your income. Cloud and DevOps engineers, I mean, they get paid easily, six-figure salaries. Remember, it's not about the money. It's about what you do with the skills you have and the money that you get in return of after using your skills, right? So you add value to a company, and in return, that company gives you money. What do you do with that money? And we can talk about that today too. All right. So Ernest is here to really inspire you, to inspire all of us. And it's such a privilege to really have you here, to really have you join us today, and welcome, brother Ernest. And I'm gonna give you a chance to say a little bit about you, and if I forgot something about what you sent me, or you want to clarify on something that I didn't say right. So this is the time. Welcome, brother.
Thank you very much, Brother Emmanuel, for that wonderful introduction. So, to those of you watching me for the first time, my name is Ernest. My last name is Agboklu. I'm originally from Ghana, West Africa. And before I dive a little bit deep into my background, I just want to commend Brother Emmanuel for the platform that he has been able to come up with, because I noticed there's a gap in the market in terms of the number of people that are promoting the gospel of cloud computing. And the reason why I put it like that is nowadays when you are just walking on the streets casually and you come across someone and you ask them, do you know anything about cloud engineering? They will tell you no. Most people do not know anything about cloud engineering. Chances are 1 out of 1,000 people you will meet on the street barely know anything about cloud computing or cloud engineering. And there's a lot of money to be made in this industry, but if you don't have the right information, how are you going to position yourself to benefit from this thriving ecosystem, right? So I appreciate platforms like CloudOps Chronicles that is out here trying to create the awareness of what is possible for you out there, especially if you are working on a job that you are getting paid $20 to $30 an hour. That is nothing compared to what you could be making. So I really appreciate Brother Emmanuel for that. Now, a little bit about my background, because I like to take people back down memory lane to help them see how I was able to get to where I am today. And the reason for that is I don't want anybody to think I'm speaking from a place of privilege. I want people to understand my journey, and then they can appreciate the story even better. So I came to the US in 2009, February to be specific. And the reason how I got here was through a visa lottery. So in my country, Ghana, I just happened to uh, play the US visa lottery, which is something that they do. I think it's every year, and I happened to be one of the winners. So they gave me a green card. It doesn't come with money. They just give you a green card, and then you have to find a way to finance yourself from Africa to the United States. So when I got here in 2009, at the time I was 24 years of age, and I had to start life from scratch. You know, the money that I came with to the US was $1,000, and my first rent was $700. So before I made it from the airport to where I'll be staying, I've already spent like $100 in Uber, right? And that means I'm only left with $900, and I'm going to pay $700 for rent. That leaves me with $200 for food and other stuff, which means that I have one big problem on my hand. I have to try and find a job as soon as possible. But things doesn't work like that when you get to the US, because you have to wait a couple of weeks for you to get your social security number before you can even start applying for jobs. So there's a waiting period. You don't just start making money right away. So I had to patiently wait. And while I was waiting, I was looking for possible employment. At the time in 2009, if you remember, the US economy was in a recession, which meant that there were no jobs. So the only job I could find at the time was a job with UPS warehouse, and this job wasn't full time; it was on call. They have to call you and let you know that you are on the list before you can go to work, and work for maybe 4 hours or 6 hours or whatever hours of work that they have. You just work for that duration of time, and then they let you go. And then the following day, you have to call them again to ask if you're on the list to come to work. And that was the kind of environment I found myself in. But I knew one thing, that if I go to work and I work very hard, even if they need two people to come to work, I'll be among those two people. So I did not joke around with that opportunity. So after a month of doing working in a warehouse as a mail sorter, I noticed that there is no way I can make a living out of this for the rest of my life. I decided right away that I needed to go to college. At the time, people who go to college were making decent salaries. I'm talking about making anywhere from $90,000 a year to about 110, $120,000. So I decided to pursue a career in healthcare administration. My goal was to become a manager in a hospital where I can contribute to the operations of the healthcare system. So 2 months after starting work with UPS, I enrolled in college, and I was working full time, going to school full time, sleeping 2 hours a day. And when I say I'm sleeping 2 hours a day, some people may say, "How are you sleeping 2 hours a day?" It's because at the time I had no car, and in New York, for you to get from point A to point B, especially when you live in Long Island, not New York City, you have to go and wait for the bus, right? And just waiting for the bus alone, sometimes it takes an hour for the bus to come. And if you miss the bus, you have to wait for another hour. So those things contributed to the amount of time I just spent trying to get from point A to point B. Fast forward a little bit, while I was in college and also working at UPS warehouse, I was able to apply to some hospitals to work there as a patient transporter. Right? It took me a year and a half of consistently applying to get that job, and it was so bad that there's an HR person who saw my application coming up almost every day. And after a year and a half, she just called me and said, "Oh, they have this position available as a patient transporter. If I'll be interested." And I said, "Yes, I'm super interested." So my pay went from 750 an hour working for UPS to $16.50 an hour. So I was excited that I had a big jump in pay. But for me to be able to get to work at that hospital and not be fired, I needed a car. So I made a very terrible mistake. At the time, I didn't have any money saved up. I don't know who can, save money. If you, especially if you're making $7.50 an hour, I don't know how much money you can save to be able to buy a car. So what I had to do was to go and finance a car. I financed a car, a brand new car, and by the time I pay my car notes, pay my rent, and some other stuff, the money is gone. So I found myself back in a place where it looks like I'm making a little bit more money, However, I wasn't getting anywhere. So I was saying to myself, what else do I need to do? So I kept going to school, finished my bachelor degree in 2014. I graduated with a bachelor degree in healthcare administration. And when I was about to start looking for a managerial job, I faced a bit of a challenge. And that challenge was whether I want to leave this so called secure job that I have. Because at the time, working in the hospital as a patient transport, we were part of a union, which meant that it will be very difficult for anyone to just get rid of you. They will have to come up with a very good reason, or you have to do something really, really bad for you to get fired. So it provided us some level of security, job security. So now having to transition from doing that to becoming a manager in a hospital, it was a little bit frightening. Even my colleagues at work were telling me I shouldn't do it because being a manager, you can get hired today and get fired tomorrow. And coming from Africa and knowing very well that I have an accent, I wasn't sure what to expect with this new adventure that I want to embark on. But one thing I said to myself is, if I don't take the risks of daring to find out what will happen on the other side, I would never know. And I won't be able to live with myself if I'm not able to pursue my goal because of the doubts and the fears that I'm having. So long story short, I ended up applying for a couple of jobs, and I ended up landing a managerial role in for Brooklyn Hospital as an operations manager for patient transport. And that started my career in healthcare. Now, while working as an operations manager for patient transport for the Brooklyn Hospital, I did that for 6 years. And the highest money I made there in that position was $61,500. And that wasn't what I thought this was going to be. But something happened between the time I enrolled in college and the time I graduated. You see, when you enroll in college, it takes 4 years for you to graduate, and a lot can change in 4 years. When I was going into the school, there were so many jobs that were paying managers like $100,000 a year. But by the time I graduated, things have changed. Now, these managers are no longer getting paid that much because a lot of the big companies that have managerial positions to fill, they outsource it to third party companies, and these companies will hire you and pay you $50,000 a year, $60,000 a year. And that was what happened to me. So after 6 years of working as an operations manager, I wasn't making enough money. I happened to come across a friend who was into IT. He was more into like project management, and I noticed he was doing something, and I said to him that, listen, I'm due for a change. I'm looking for something else to do.
Just,
And he said,
just
well,
to interject here,
yeah,
so you said 61K, like what was it for
$61,500 a year
as a manager,
as a manager.
and how much work a week?
Um 24, basically you are working 24 hours, because as a manager you are getting paid a salary. You don't even get paid overtime, which means that even if you are home and something is going on at the hospital that needs your attention, you have to leave your family and drive to the hospital and take care of whatever needs to be taken care of. So there is no set time for me to work. I'm on call 24/7.
All right, so sorry about
Yeah.
that. Please go on.
Yes. So I think I lost my train of thought. Let me see where I left off.
You're talking about transitioning. You met with a friend or somebody.
Good, good. So I met with a very good friend of mine, and he was into project management. He was telling me about AWS, and at the time I did not even know what AWS was or is, right? And he was telling me about the cloud engineering, and I'm like, what is the cloud? Until that time, I thought that when they say cloud, I was thinking our data was being stored in the sky, literally. That was my mindset. So he told me about a boot camp that he was about to attend, and he said, this is how much they charge. If I'm interested, I can enroll, and within 6 months, I can become a cloud engineer. So I was excited about that because Up until that point, I've tried basically everything. There was a time that I was working as a manager in a hospital, and I was driving Uber at the same time to make ends meet, because in New York, if you know anything about rent is expensive, and you cannot just do it just with one job. So on weekends, I'll go and drive Uber. In addition to driving Uber, at some point, I also worked as a wedding videographer. I own my own small business where I was covering people's weddings, and that did not take me anywhere either, because the people that knew that I was good at taking wedding videos, they would patronize my services, but instead of them to pay what they are supposed to pay, because I'm an African brother and we are all from the same place, they will ask for huge, ridiculous discounts, right? To the point that it doesn't even make sense for me to continue doing these videos anymore. So I ended up enrolling in the boot camp for 6 months, and that was the best decision I've ever made up until that point. When I started going to that boot camp and they explained the concept of cloud computing, and I got to understand that when they say the cloud, it doesn't mean the sky somewhere. So they are just talking about data centers, a physical data center that has physical servers pre-configured for anybody in the world with internet connection to be able to remotely access compute services such as database, servers, CPU, memory, to do whatever they want to do, right? And once I started understanding the concept, I started seeing the value why they will pay somebody $150,000, $200,000 a year to become a cloud engineer. So when I saw that potential, I said to myself, I'm going to do whatever it takes to secure a role in this industry, because making $61,500 a year is not what I signed up for coming to the United States of America. I've been told the United States is the land of opportunity, which is very true. But the problem most of us face when we get here is that if you lack the necessary information, you can be working very hard and going nowhere. So I did my due diligence, and I gave it everything I got. Long story short, before I graduated the program, I was able to get I wrote the AWS Cloud Practitioner exam and I passed. And I also wrote the AWS Solutions Architect Associate exam and I passed. So a month before I graduated, I secured my first fully remote tech job, and my first six-figure job for that matter. And that completely blew my mind, because I thought you need a bachelor degree in cloud computing to be able to uh, get a job in tech. I thought you had to go to a university to learn computer science or computer engineering to become a cloud engineer. But none of that is true. What they are looking for is, do you have the technical skills? And can you contribute to whatever projects that we are working on right away if given the opportunity? That is all they care about. They did not even care too much about my certification, to be honest. The certification only matter when you get the job. Then they'll start asking you questions like, oh, do you have these certifications? Do you have that certifications? And some companies would actually hire you and sponsor you to write that certification. So there are so many benefits. And another interesting thing was this: my first tech role, we had something called unlimited PTO. I've never heard anything of that sort until I got my first tech job. When I was working as an operations manager, we only had 2 weeks of uh, paid vacation, and that was it. But on this side, not only are they paying me way more money that I was being paid working as an operations manager, but also I had the flexibility that came with the job. Working fully remote was awesome, because you get to see your family majority of the time. So these were the things that I look and I said, look, whatever it takes to be successful in this field, I'm going to do it. I continue to upskill. And today, a little bit over 5 years into my tech journey, here we are. And I also have a platform where I try to educate people and provide them with the necessary skills and tools to also be successful in the space. So I can talk about that a little bit later. But yeah, just on a very high level, that is my story. And let me allow Emmanuel to ask a few questions and we take it from here.
Well, thank you so much, first of all, for being here on the show, and also for sharing your story. I know your story could take a day, which we don't have. But you making it short and pinpointing, a few things here. That's uh, very, very, very helpful. And if you don't mind, let me see um, somebody trying to join here. So I'll ask you a question here. But just before I ask you a question, I would like to kind of like highlight a few things that you shared as you were sharing your story. And you talked about job security as one thing that a lot of traditional, educational platforms kind of like promise, right? You're gonna have a good job after 4 years of school, and of course you need an associate degree, you need a bachelor's degree, or even something higher, bigger than that, which could help you maybe secure like a management role at an IT company, but you get a job, you get an IT job, not because of your education, it's because of your skills. It's not
100%.
because of your certification, and you kind of like stressed on that. It's not about the certifications because you can get them later. I got my first job in IT with no certifications at all,
Mm,
and it was like after over 3 years that I started, pursuing certifications. And the other thing that you mentioned is boot camp. That's a community, a learning community. I mean, find a place, find a people, a group of people that can help you learn. They can mentor you, they can teach you, they can guide you, they can support you, and they can help you. And then the other thing you said, which was it's very, very important here. Do whatever it takes to reach your goals. Just do whatever it takes to reach your goals. And the way I tell my students or my mentees, I always say, or my friends, say, if you want to achieve a goal, you have to look at that process as a matter of life or death. If I don't get there, I'm dead. So so just keep that in mind. You also mentioned information, the right information. Successful people are always after new information. They're always after new information. And of course, you talked about skills. I'm going to see if we have any questions here in the chat. Let me check here quick. Looking at like three different platforms here, and this is a one-man show, so I'm doing everything by myself here. Uh,
that's fine.
yeah, I don't see any questions in the comment box, in the chats here, but I'm gonna ask you a couple of questions here.
Sure.
First, uh, when for someone, let's say someone someone is new, and
Yeah.
they've never done IT before, so they have no skills. The only thing they know about the computer is that to maybe to use it for emails or maybe Facebook or something like that, and they want to join. They want to transition into IT, like cloud and DevOps. I mean, what kind of advice, in a form of steps, 3, 4, 5 steps, they need to take?
Okay. That is a very good question. Because that can either make the experience of breaking into tech very pleasant for you or not very pleasant, right? And the reason why I say that is this. First of all, if you are out there, you have no tech background, no tech education, and you are looking to break into tech, it is possible for you to go from zero tech background to becoming a cloud engineer in as little as 6 months. It is very possible. You need to find yourself a very good boot camp. And one thing you have to make sure when you're looking for this boot camp is this: make sure whoever is teaching the course is actually working in the field, right? Because there are so many people out there having boot camps that promise 6-figure salaries, but they themselves have never worked a day in the job. It's just like saying uh, you being trained by someone who is not a pilot. You want to become a pilot, but the person training you is not a pilot. How are they going to help you navigate a stormy weather, right? It doesn't make a lot of sense. So, number one, make sure you find a boot camp, a very good one. Make sure the person teaching the course is also working in the field. That way, they will be able to guide you properly and help you do projects that are relevant in the space, so that you don't go ahead and waste your time. Now, um, understanding cloud technologies all has to do with understanding the core concepts. There are so many concepts when it comes to cloud. For instance, if we take AWS, right? AWS alone have over 200 different services. You don't have to go and learn 200 services to secure a job as a cloud engineer. No, you don't. You just need to learn the core services. What are the core services that AWS provides? We are talking about networking, we are talking about VPC, learning how to configure VPC from scratch. And things that go into VPC configuration are things like internet gateway, subnets, route tables, security groups, network access control lists. And knowing how to properly configure that, that is number one. Networking is key. Number two, how do you create a server in AWS? Learning how to provision what we call EC2 instance, which is another name for a server in AWS terminology, right? And number three, once you know how to create that server, how do you make that server highly available and scalable? That is another thing you need to understand and learn. So, for example, if you have an application running inside of one server, if something happens to that server, for instance, this call that we are on right now using this software, I believe this is being hosted online, right? Let's imagine that this application is being hosted in one server, and God forbid something happens to that server. That means uh, we won't be reachable anymore. Those of you online right now, this session is just going to time out and you won't be able to access the show. But in a way, this company has made their application highly available. What does high availability means? It simply means that you are deploying a copy of your application in multiple different places. We call them availability zones in AWS terms, right? But not to be too technical, is just deploying a copy of your application in multiple places so that if one goes down, you can still be accessible by your application can still be accessible by your end users. So there's a concept of high availability and there's a concept of scalability. That is something that you have to learn. Now, on top of those two things, you have to understand security, because you can have a fully functioning application, but if there are no security measures in place to make sure your application is well protected, then you don't have an application, because bad actors are out there. They will send DDoS attacks to your web application and they will bring it down, right? So security is very important. You have to understand things like web application firewall, how to set up a security group to prevent anybody from accessing your application within your server. How do you configure network access control list, which is another firewall or security group that operates at the subnet level? How do you achieve these things? So these are the major things that you have to understand. If you go into an interview today and you tell an interviewer that you are an AWS cloud engineer, you know how to set up VPC from scratch, you know how to make an application highly available, scalable, fault tolerant, and secure. You know how to do these things. Trust me, they will find something for you to do right away. they'll be able to bring you in and find something for you to do right away. But in my program that we have at Africa Pro Cloud, we don't end things over there. There are so many things that we do, and a little bit I'll give you a little bit details about what we do at Africa Pro Cloud Institute. But there's another concept too called Terraform. Right, Terraform is an infrastructure as code tool. How do you use Terraform to automate the provisioning of cloud resources? So everything I just mentioned, from, let's say, configuring your VPC, your subnets, and all of those good stuff, setting up your server, making sure they are highly available, setting up a load balancer to distribute incoming web traffic, making sure that your servers are part of an auto scaling group that spans across multiple availability zones. Um, all those things. With Terraform, you are able to automate the provisioning of all those resources. And it's very simple. Another thing I want to make clear here is this: you don't have to know coding to get into cloud computing. That is another myth that prevents a lot of people from entering into the field. People think they have to go and learn some crazy programming language like Golang or Java or C++ or Python or all of these other programming languages out there. You do not have to know coding, because what we do as cloud engineers is maintain and create infrastructure. And when we talk about infrastructure, we are not talking about developing an application. Software engineers learn programming languages because they have to focus on developing an application. All right, they develop different features of an application, but for cloud engineers, we provision the infrastructure upon which that application the developer works on is going to be hosted on. All right, so there is software engineering, and then there is cloud infrastructure engineering. The software engineers, they develop the code, and then the cloud infrastructure engineer, they provide the infrastructure or the platform upon which that developed code is going to live on and be able to serve end users. Yeah, that's just a little bit without going too deep into the technicalities of it.
Yeah, and then thank you so much, because this is kind of like highlighting a few things here. So you're talking about, for somebody new, you want to transition it into uh, cloud or DevOps, and and these are kind of like two different fields here. So you're talking about cloud, you focus more on cloud uh, infrastructure, but then DevOps, which is kind of like it's a methodology, it's an approach,
Yeah,
it's a culture. Uh, but DevOps engineer, you take care of the entire infrastructure from source code to when the application is in production. So
right.
you work, you interface with developers like software engineers, the people who write the code for the application. Also, you may interface with security people as well as the front end people, the operations team. So that's DevOps. And cloud engineers, they may do a little bit of DevOps depending on the role, but mostly they focus on a given cloud computing platform, um, and then the requirements of the company, and which could be like taking care of virtual machines or hosted on Microsoft Azure or AWS, and taking care of these things like automation that you mentioned, security, also monitoring. That's another piece that you will have to learn. And another
Yeah,
component is CI/CD, which also comes into play, but mostly for DevOps engineer roles. And this is kind of it gives you some clarity about what you expect to learn, or what we expect you to learn in order to become a cloud engineer and DevOps engineer. And then, in the beginning, you may say, wow, this is a lot of information. Yes, it's a lot of information. but the concepts are very simple. The concepts are very simple, and Ernest, you can testify to that. I mean, once you get yourself, you put yourself into the field and begin learning, you're gonna say, "What? This is easy," you know. So,
It is.
yeah, you just get in, depending on what you want to do this year, and then you're gonna realize that the 4 or 5 things that you're gonna have to focus on is architecture that has to do with the infrastructure. Then the other components would be like automation, security, monitoring, and then you look at CI/CD. CI/CD falls under automation, right? You would agree with me. So
Yeah.
you automate your pipelines, and you can use a variety of tools there, like GitLab, GitHub Actions, or Jenkins, and the list goes on.
Right.
Thank you so much. Let me see any questions here. There's a question here. What we face sometimes as people coming from Africa and now settled maybe in the West is getting the right information. Some have the right
Yep.
information and they keep it for themselves. So somebody
Yep.
really appreciated your feedback on that, and not only we have to share information with each other, but the people who receive the information, you have the challenge to act. I mean, my challenge to you is, okay, I give you information, so what do you do with that information? That's
Right.
something that I would say. Do you want to add something?
Yes, sure. Information is key, regardless of where you are. If you walk into any economy, whether any country that you go into, right, that country has an economy in place. If you don't understand how that economy works, you won't know how to leverage the opportunities that are there to get what you want, right? So a country like the United States, there is a ton of opportunities here. I can't even begin to name them. However, if you don't have the right information, you are going to be working at a dead end job for the rest of your life. And I like to say that nowadays we have so many hardworking people that are lazy. And it's sort of like an irony, right? When I say we have hardworking people that are lazy, what I'm trying to say is this. If let's say I started working from UPS warehouse and I was making 750 an hour, just imagine if I had just continued working hard at that job and stayed there,
Mm.
right? Imagine what my life would have been, right? So as individuals, we owe it to ourselves that if we are doing something work related and we realize that the outcome or the output of our effort is not equivalent to the effort that we are putting into the work, the results that we are getting in terms of the money we aim to get, is not adding up. We owe it to ourselves to make a decision and continue to look for something better, because the more you keep looking, at some point you are going to find that information that is hidden from you. But if you find yourself in a position where you've done the same job for 10 years and you are just tired and you just give up on yourself and you decide to just settle, then you will never get to find that information you are looking for. So personally, I'm somebody that I'm on a journey. I don't stop at one thing. I'm trying to see, even now that I'm in tech, I'm trying to see, okay, how do I position myself better in tech to become more of like a subject matter expert when it comes to everything platform engineering, right? That is my next goal that I'm setting for myself. And then when I get there, I'm not going to end it there. Now, how can I, set up a company that is able to help a lot of companies, let's say in Africa, who are looking to migrate to the cloud? How can I position myself so that when the tech boom begins to happen in Africa, to be at the forefront of helping companies migrate their resources from on-prem to the cloud? How can I do that? Because here is the thing. Anytime there is a new technology in the West, it takes time before it hits Africa, right? African companies cannot continue to operate using on-prem services when we are now talking about artificial intelligence and machine learning and all of this crazy stuff, right? The reason why you cannot have artificial intelligence in an on-prem environment is because you can't afford the amount of upfront capital you have to come up with to have something like that working on-prem. So you have to leverage the cloud. So it is going to force a lot
Right.
of companies to migrate to the cloud. Just this year alone, the number of companies that are moving to the cloud here in the US alone is crazy because everybody wants to take advantage of the AI revolution. So, what am I trying to say? All I'm trying to say is this: information is key. Without information, you don't know how to act. Now, when you do get that information, you have to apply that information and you have to be willing to go through a bit of discomfort until you get what you want out of life. The fact that you want to become a cloud engineer doesn't mean that adversities are just going to excuse you for the duration of time you want to enroll in this program. No. As a matter of fact, the very reason that you have decided to upgrade yourself, all hell is going to break loose, right? While you are taking that course, guess what? If you are married, you'll be having troubles with your wife. You guys will be arguing back and forth about unnecessary things. Your kids might be sick. You might have to take them to the hospital, come back home, and still find time to study. There might be days that you have to cut down on the number of sleep that you get because you still have a daytime job that you have to go to. Those are sacrifices that you will have to be willing to make in order to get to the end. But if you want to argue for your limitations, right, then this is something that is not going to help you. It is okay to acknowledge your limitations and tell yourself that this is my limitations, but I am willing to do whatever it takes to get to the other side. And with my program that I have going on, I'll provide you some coaching and guidance along the way to get you to the other side. But if you want to make excuses as to why you can practice the things that we are learning in class, why you can put in an extra time to make sure that you are understanding the skills that we are talking about, then it's going to be very difficult for you to make that transition. And one thing I've learned from life is this: for most people, they will never change until the pain it takes to remain the same becomes greater than the pain it takes to change.
Mhm.
That is when
Yes,
most people change.
that's very true. And amen to that. And then you said also life is a journey. Look at life as a journey. So don't stay the same. And you also talked about making sure that you upgrade yourself. And I love that. I mean, we upgrade our cell phones, applications, and stuff. Why don't we do it on ourselves?
Mhm.
To upgrade your skills, add more values every day. I mean, just set a goal to learn at least one tool, like every week, and be a master, an expert at that tool. Just do that. Uh, I don't use all of the skills that I have acquired. I mean, for the last year, 8, 10 years. No. And whatever you don't use, you're gonna lose it. So that's why I
Yeah.
love teaching. I love mentoring. I love also working on my own hands-on projects. So I write my own hands-on projects and just test something different. And then the other thing that I've been doing is to, like, if I work on AWS, I'll also be curious to do the same on Microsoft Azure and also try it
Mm.
also on Google. So make sure that you push yourself to the next level. Don't just stay the same. Well, thank you so much. It's been an honor and such a blessing to have you on our show. Let's say I have about one more question, I think. Actually, I have more questions, but we don't have enough time to go through those questions. Uh, but let's say, let me ask you this briefly, if you can answer this briefly, because
Okay.
the audience, they need to know where to find you after
Okay.
you answer the question here. What are some of the you would call the emerging tools or trends in cloud infrastructure or DevOps that you feel excited about? And then you may probably say, hey, if you are at the beginning of the journey, this is where you should start.
Okay, yeah. Thank you very much for that. At the beginning of the journey, you will first have to learn all the core services. When it comes to AWS, I've already touched a bit on that already. When it comes to CI/CD pipeline, you have to understand the software development lifecycle. You know what happens when developers develop code and push it to a repository like GitHub or GitLab. What happens from that point? What tools are being used to perform vulnerability scanning within a CI/CD pipeline. Those things are very important. In terms of artifact repository, you know, what tools are being used today? Are companies using Docker Hub or are they using Nexus? In my experience, I've seen a lot more companies use Nexus as their artifact repository. And there's a lot happening in the space of technology. If you want to go a bit advanced, then we are talking about things like Kubernetes for container orchestration, right? And Kubernetes is one of the field that is one of the tools that is going to be in very high demand in in the coming years, just because of artificial intelligence alone. Because artificial intelligence, these different modules that they are building, they are going to break them down into microservices, and these things can be easily deployed using Kubernetes. So Kubernetes provides a very good um, tool for cloud engineers to utilize to make these applications highly available, fault tolerant, secure, and all of these things that we already spoke about. And I'll also use this time to share a bit about my bootcamp that I have. It is called the Africa Pro Cloud Institute, and we are a premier training and educational platform dedicated to empowering individuals with cutting edge tools in cloud infrastructure engineering, DevSecOps, and AWS technologies. Our mission is to bridge the technical skills gap, especially within our African American communities and the global diaspora at large, by providing comprehensive hands on training that is designed to unlock career opportunities in the tech industry. We offer a 6 month cloud infrastructure DevSecOps engineering program that is designed to prepare students for real world challenges. And our programs covers things like AWS core services, Linux administration, Terraform for infrastructure as code, things like Kubernetes and Docker, CI/CD pipelines, LinkedIn optimization, and interview preparation. And we also provide a lifetime membership in the Africa Pro Cloud Institute tech ecosystem, which is currently a growing community of tech professionals. Our classes are also held on weekends from 4 p.m. to 7 p.m. EST, and done over Zoom and recorded to provide flexibility in learning. Um, we also provide coaching from industry experts like myself and other colleagues that I do invite every now and then to speak at my bootcamp. We provide affordable world class education tailored for beginners and experienced professionals alike. You will be working on real world projects and scenarios to build confidence and also competence. We also focus on fostering critical thinking and technical expertise required for cloud engineering roles. Our upcoming class our next cohort is actually starting on July 5th. The duration of the program again is 6 months, and then the tuition is 3,000 US dollars. So whether you are looking to break into tech or you are looking to just elevate your existing career, I believe Africa Pro Cloud Institute provides the skills, support, and community you need to thrive. So let us help you build your future in cloud computing today. You can also visit our website at africaprocloudinstitute.com or reach us at 612 to learn more about our program. So yeah, that's all I have. Thank you.
So this is your information here, and you can find more about Ernest on LinkedIn. You want to contact him? There's contact info here. Just click here, and then it will take you to more information here. on how you should be able to contact him. If you have any questions. All right. Let me see. Do we have any questions from the group here? I see one here. How do you get hired when you are in tech? There's a question here. If you'll be willing to
Yes,
answer.
that is a very good question, and that is one of the secret sources when you come to my boot camp. That is some of the things that we share privately internally with our people. So, if you're interested, we can take that. I can answer that question offline and help you with a few things that we help our students with.
Okay, perfect. Any other questions? Because we are at the top of the hour here, and again, on behalf of my audience, I want to thank you so much, Mr. Ernest, for taking some of your. I know your time is very limited, being a full-time engineer and also a full-time mentor and trainer. But I do appreciate you joining us today, and I hope this relationship continues. And then you need anything from me, just let me know. I need something from you. I know how to get a hold of you, so you can't hide anymore. So thank you. Any closing remarks, words before we close?
Yeah. So I just want to encourage everyone to strive for greatness, right? Because the same energy that you are going to take is going to take you to just sit on the couch and do nothing, right? That if you take a little bit of that energy, you invest it in something productive and positive, you are going to radically transform your life. One of my favorite verses in the book of Proverbs is, the distraction of the poor is their poverty. The distraction of the poor is their poverty. And in the world that we live in today, it is so true. Do not spend time on social media scrolling through useless social media feeds that are not going to take you anywhere, right? Stay away from social media, invest that energy and time into building up yourself. That same energy, if you invest it in a program like cloud computing, it will radically change your life. Even if you don't want to pursue a career in cloud computing, just read a book. Instead of going to social media and scrolling through useless feeds, read a book to just um, help your personal development, right? So that is what I want to leave you with. 2025 is going to be an amazing year if you decide to do things a bit differently this year. So take care of yourself, be good out there, and um, I can't wait to celebrate each and every one of you down the road. Yeah, thank you.
All right, thank you so much. It was a pleasure, and having you here today, and everybody else. You heard everything, and even if you have to watch this after the live show, but remember that you have to use your time wisely. Invest your time into learning at least one skill every every week if you can, or every 2 weeks. Learn and master one IT skill if you can. This could be in cloud or DevOps. Surround yourself with people that can hold you accountable to whatever goal you may have for this year, whatever goals you may have. And the people who can support you, they can speak life into you, right? And they can inspire you. You see somebody very, very, very successful, it means that they have spent a lot of time around successful people. It is also biblical, and that's why even Jesus himself, he had to select the kind of people that he needed to have around him. So make sure that you become a little bit selective about who you talk to, who you listen to, and the kind of information that you want to, ingest into your life for yourself. When you are on social media, don't spend 2 hours, 3 hours on social media. Because 3 hours, you go to LinkedIn or YouTube, you can learn one skill which can give you a job, and they can pay you like 55 hours an hour for that just one skill. So use your time wisely. So this is the end of our show today, and it was a pleasure of having our friend and brother Ernest here on our show. You all have a good weekend. God bless, and I'll see you next week. Thank you.